Okay, hello there everyone. Is my microphone working? Yes, it looks like it might be. Hi Connie. You like the new look? Did you like that? The introduction, do you mean? I thought it's time to freshen it up a little bit, hey, and give you all something nice to look at while you're waiting for me as well. Just to remind you of all Lisa's all the goodies here. Hi Sandy. So it's slightly cold today, but 24 degrees. Has been a scorcher, hasn't it? Oh, Hazel's just come in. Oh, she's come to sit under my desk. Oh, hello, little bean. Oh, she's a good girl. She's sitting under my desk today. She's been very soppy. Actually, it was very easy to have just sat down with her and crafted with you this morning. Oh, hello. Okay, looks like my... Oh, I've just turned my lights on. Let's just turn that down a little bit. Hello, Hazel. I know. You can't sit on my lap, not just at the minute. Hey? Good girl. You're going to distract me, aren't you? Now she wants to get up on my lap. Oh, Hazel. You are being a soppy sausage today. Okay, looks like everybody... And yeah, you saw me as well. Yes, I thought I'd just sneak in there a little bit. I didn't want you to sit and look at me for 2 minutes though, hey Connie. That would have been a bit too much. Maybe I could have put a picture of Hazel on there instead. Okay, so hi Bonnie. Oh, hi Tina, how are you? Lovely to have you here. Hi Mum. Who else do we have? Hi Jamie. Hi Jennifer. There's a couple of new names. Hi Kimberly. Okay, let's get going. So today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I basically just wanted to use these two sets because I hadn't opened them before and I just wanted to have a play with them. So I couldn't decide which to use, so I thought let's try and combine them into the one card. So I'm using the Rose Butterfly and the Spring Foliage, and Lisa pulled this out the other day, didn't it? Spring Foliage. I think it might have been when she was embossing with the her new holographic card. And I thought, oh yeah, that is really pretty. So I think I might use this one a lot. And having pulled it out, there's so much to it. There's tiny little leaves, larger leaves, which actually gives it an awful lot of interest, an awful lot to look at, as opposed to just being a normal plain foliage. And then of course we've got the Rose Butterfly as well, which is a lovely image. Neither of them have dies, so they are a 5x7 embossing folder with their associated layering stencils. The card I'm going to make for you today can be made with either just the embossing folders or just the stencils, or a combination of the two, depending on what you have. So because there isn't any die cutting with it, it is very adaptable to what you may have in your stash. So I think what I might do, I'll give you a quick reminder of Lisa's pick, which is still on the website. It's still the holographic card with the XL sentiments, and I will be using those a little bit later on, actually, just to add the final finishing touch with the sentiment. This is the slide of everything that I'm using today. So as I say, I'm using the Spring Foliage, which is 5x7, so we've got the embossing folder and the layering stencils, and the same combination with the Rose Butterfly. Oh, let's put them across a little bit. There we are. With the Rose Butterfly also, I'm using the Best Wishes and Thanks XL sentiments along with the holographic card, just to put that on, and then you can see the colours for the matte blending inks as well. And I'm going to be using a couple of the interference inks. So I think what I'll do, I hope I've prepped this right today. I've got a lot going on beside me here. I'm just going to bring in the shape of the card that I'm using. So I'm going to be making like a cascade card like this here. So you can see, if I that stands up really nicely. It's a simple and actually quite a straightforward card blank, one that you can make from any of your 12 by 12 pieces of card. You'll be able to make 2 of these card blanks from one 12 by 12 piece of card, because, and I'll bring up the details for the measurements in a second. It's basically the width is 12 inches and you cut it in half, so the height is 6 inches. And therefore it can fit into a normal sort of C6 or A6 envelope, which is perfect and makes it very usable as well. Oh, I've just noticed I spelled Golden Sun wrong. Excuse my spelling mistakes there. Okay, so I'll pull up the measurements here for you. So I think it's called a Cascade card. I think that sort of pretty much makes sense. You'll see it build as we go along. So as I say, the card blank is one piece, 12 inches by 6 inches tall. And then you can see the other mats and layers here, which I'll refer back to as we're making them. But I think if I show you briefly now, then I can put the slide back up again at the end. So I've got this sort of space for the sort of the desk space to work on. So we have then the mats, the cream mats and layers. These are the ones that I'm going to add to the front of the card. Let's put that the right way around because I've used textured cardstock. There we are. So these mats and layers, these are the smallest ones. So this is 4 7/8 of an inch by 1 7/8 inch across. Obviously shaped at the top, and I'll go through that shaping in a second. But if you cut your rectangles to fit, that's what we have on there. So you have those measurements for those mats and layers, and then we have the larger ones. So you need another 2 pieces at 5 7/8 of an inch in height and 1 7/8 wide, and these will fit under there. Now the next layer I'm going to bring in, that's already got my mat and layer on, so you can see where I'm using the spring foliage already, and that will fit under there. So the next 2 layers, the decorated layers, are basically the layers that sit on top of this, and you can see those measurements there. I've just followed sort of the general matting and layering rule. You can see how that's going to build, and you can see how I've layered that decorated piece onto that cream piece there, and that will just give us a nice border to slip underneath. So that's how the card's constructed. And then you have the back panel here. So you have one piece at 5 7/8 of an inch by 3 7/8 of an inch. So that's the mat and layer that's going to go on the back there, and I've done that in green. And then we're going to have the decorated panel, which is going to sit on the front of that. And again, that's the other measurement there, which is just following general mat and layering guidelines. If you prefer to have a larger mat and layer, then obviously your decorated panels, obviously this being one of them, will be that little bit smaller, and that can be adjusted really easily to suit your taste. So that's going to be going under there. You can see how the card is constructed. Yeah, that one falls under there. You have these panels here. So what I'll go ahead and do now is show you the stenciling techniques, and then we'll cut all the rest of our pieces and we'll put our card together in a little bit. So hopefully that makes sense. And then we have our sentiment, obviously, which is going to be put on the front, and I shall get to that in a second. So you can see the rose panel there. You can see a little bit of the spring foliage there, just to give you a little taster of what's going on. So I think what I'll do to start with is say the mats and layers are actually quite straightforward, but I will show you how the main card blank is scored. So I have my piece, so it's 6 inches by 12.5 inches. You'll need a scoreboard, and what we want to do is to score from the left hand side. We want to score at 2 inches and at 4 inches. And then I find it much easier to turn the piece around and do exactly the same again. So again, you are scoring at 2 inches and at 4 inches. That way you need to remember less numbers. But if you want the measurements to go all across, I'll let you know now, you're scoring at 2 inches, 4 inches, 8 inches and 10 inches. Okay. What that then does, it gives you our, let me move this out of the way. It gives you the footprint of the card, which if I score these two, so it's almost a gatefold. So we have the back panel here, the largest panel, which is our 6x4, and that is the size of the envelope. That's the size of the card that it's actually going to fold down into. So we have our panels, and if we work as this being the center, we fold one side in. So we create our folds like that. So we've got a bit of a gatefold going on. So we score one panel in and then fold back on itself. And then the same again on the other side. So it's actually really straightforward as a fold. Now this shape, without doing anything else, is a card blank in itself. So if you actually prefer to make the card like this, then again, I think that would work absolutely brilliantly. Also, what it will do actually, won't it? It will actually hide anything that is on the inside. So you can open it up and you get that element of surprise. Whereas the way that I've actually cut it, and I will cut this one. Let's bring that in. You can see a little bit of the inside sort of peeping out, and you get to decorate and you still get to see these panels here. Whereas on this card, they'd actually be hidden until you sort of stand it up like that. So, I mean, they're two different card blanks in themselves, both equally usable and, you know, for different designs. But to create this into our shaped one, I'm going to get a ruler and a pencil at this stage. Now, again, this is a part where you can absolutely make it as custom as you want. I am going to take my ruler, just put it down the side there, and you can see that this actually measures 6 inches. And I'm going to mark at 2 inches here. And I'm going to do the same on the other side and mark down at 2 inches. Now, if you prefer, let me just bring this one in here. If you prefer this to be less or slightly more, if you want it to be less, then you can mark less than 2 inches here. If you want this to be slightly more pronounced, then you would make this measurement larger than 2 inches. But I think the 2 inches works really well. Then to make our pencil line, which we're going to use to cut, we want to mark from this 2-inch mark that we've made up to the top of the 4-inch score line. So I'm just going to make the pencil mark there. And then we do the same on the other side. So we take our 2-inch mark, but we go up to the top of the 8-inch score line. So basically we're mirroring what's on this side. So if you're not working with measurements, you're basically going from your 2-inch pencil mark that you've made up to the second score line on the inside away, if that makes sense. So we're cutting across these two gates. So you can use scissors, you can use your guillotine, you can use your paper cutter. So I'm just going to cut that down. I don't always make a cut mark because the way that my guillotine sort of lines up, it works really well. But sometimes I understand with some paper cutters, you need to be that little bit more precise, and having that line there does help. So having made those cuts now and fold those in, you can see straight away that we have our folds, which then allows these panels also to be decorated and just peeps through. So I'm just going to give that a really good score. Because like I said last week, I think I made a shaped card last week. The more that you burnish the cardstock, it gives it more of a memory, basically, and it's going to spring back into that shape and help it keep its shape. So that's the card blank created. So let's get on to some stenciling. So that slide's been up there a while now, so hopefully you've taken down these measurements. Obviously, if you're watching this or re-watching this, you'll be able to stop and start that part of the video. So I'm going to get my Ultimate in. Using my ink, so lots of foliage going on here. So I've got lots of different greens, well, 3 different greens. Pina Colada, so for me to create a yellow rose today with a little bit of sugar candy. So we can add a little pink tinge to that, and also to the butterfly there as well. Okay. Right, so I think what we'll do, we'll stencil the spring foliage first. So I'm just going to bring up your comments actually, because I can't see. There we are. Oh, lots of comments. Who's that? Hi, Evelyn. Oh, you've ordered your holographic card, have you? Yeah, Danny is always on the ball, for sure. Oh, you'll love the card when he gets there, the holographic card. Say it's one of those things, it's so hard to show you on the camera. Just when it comes back, when you see it in real life, it's really stunning. So I'm going to I'm going to stencil the spring foliage first, and I'm actually going to stencil it onto green cardstock today. I thought the white was going to be too stark to put too many layers on. It obviously depends on the style of the card that you're working with, but I wanted this to be there, but I just want it to sort of do its job quietly in the background. So I'm stenciling onto a really nice green, and I've already cut this cardstock to its height. So because both of these stencils that I'm using today are 5x7, my stencil is going to be slightly larger than the cardstock that I'm working on, but that is absolutely fine. It just gives you the option just to sort of move and cherry pick where you want to stencil. So okay, so we're going to start off with the spring foliage and say stencil number 1 of, we've only got 3 stencils in this set, and we have the branches going on there. Now you could do the branches brown if you wanted. Actually, I didn't think of that. That might actually be quite a nice idea. So I'm just going to come in with the Woodland moss, and I think I want to make these a little bit darker than the rest. And I'm just thinking, coming into September, and not that I'm wishing away the summer season, I can't call it summer really. It's hasn't really happened here in in Ireland, to be honest with you. We had one day, Saturday, it was sweltering, it was lovely, and then Sunday, and we had a big storm and rain, and we've had rain today. But going back to what I was saying, this spring foliage, I think if you were to stencil it this dark brown and then the leaves also in a russety orangey colour, this will actually be perfect for autumn cards as well, regardless of its name. But we like to change things up. Actually, bear with me. What I'm doing, I'm just grabbing my brown ink, because I didn't think about this when I was prepping. I quite like this idea, just to add another element, sort of a bit of another colour into the card, so I'm not making the same thing twice. I am going to use tree bark just really lightly into these twig sections. And actually, looking at this layer of the stencil, you could use just this layer on its own. Couldn't you? I think if you were sort of putting foliage and things together, and there's obviously, we get to winter and sort of late autumn where there's no leaves on the trees at all, I think that would work really nicely. So I'm to take that away, and you can see that there, that would work really nice if you were then to, and I'm digressing again, I always do this, don't I? If you were then to just reposition this stencil and just create a whole bunch of branches, I think without the leaves, that would work really nicely. That's something I'm going to remember and try myself at some stage, I think. So Don't be surprised if I do another live and I come back to that idea. Okay, that's what happens when I get stenciling, you know. You just, the more that you use your stencils, the more that you see different ways to use them. Equally, actually, this stencil is just leaves, different leaf shapes, and you could just use this one in the background by itself and just create the leaves. I mean, I've just put a tiny amount of ink on there, but look at that as a background already. I mean, that would be really lovely too, wouldn't it? Yes. I knew I had to have this stencil when I got this. Or when I saw Lisa release it, I thought, oh, yeah, I'm going to use this one a lot. So, let you know what I'm doing. I'm putting Woodland moss down all in the background here. I'm not too worried about whether I'm putting the ink on evenly across or not. This is going to be background. It's not the main focal point. And I quite like sometimes that the ink can be heavier in some places than others. So I'm going to put Woodland moss down like that. Then I'm going to come in with a little bit of eucalyptus leaves, not heavy, and I'm not necessarily going all the way round with it. I'm just going to add different areas just to add different, just a bit of interest really. By putting or layering the eucalyptus leaves on top of woodland moss, it's actually going to start resembling this colour cardstock a little bit more. So let me bring this one in here. You can see here I've done exactly the same. So there's different layers of colour going on there, which again, it gives you a little bit more interest, gives you something else to look at. I think it just makes it look like you've put the, you know, you've given some thought into how the card's put together. And I will keep removing the stencil just to see how the layering's going. I've got Margarita here, so I am going to put a little bit on as well. Now this is a much lighter ink, and obviously I'm stenciling onto green, so there's not going to be a huge amount of difference, but it will just lighten up some areas as well. And I think what I'll do, and I'll tell a lie, there's 4 stencils in this set, because we come in with stencil number 3 and we have just these little areas here of these smaller leaves and different shaped leaves, and what I'm going to do is highlight those with the eucalyptus leaves, and that will really make them stand out. You don't have to. Again, it's all in choice. It's always nice to have that choice. So I'm going to put the eucalyptus leaves down first and put that down quite heavy. And then just to make sure that that really does blend in with the rest of everything, I'm going to put woodland moss over the top. It's not going to take away the fact that this is going to be a different colour, but it really, just by layering that extra colour on there, it just makes sure it blends with everything else. And you can see those leaves are standing out, which is just a really nice point of interest. You could do the rest of the leaves really, really subtle, and then really put these in a contrasting colour, and I think that would look quite stunning as well. Then our last stencil, again, which could be just a pattern in itself. If you look at it, that could be Christmas tree fronds. You could use just this in the background for a Christmas card. I think that would work really nicely as well. It is adding the vein detail to the leaves, but I really think that this could be used as a Christmas stencil as well. So already I've spoken about all 4 seasons with this stencil, which is called Spring Foliage. So yeah, always look at your stencils and see what they can do for you. It doesn't necessarily have to be with how they're named. Now obviously if you go with the packaging, Lisa always gives us a really nice starting point with colourways, but and Lisa would be the first to say this, to experiment. There's no reason why these leaves can't be all yellows, oranges and browns, as I say, to simulate autumn, or they could just be random, you know, greens and blues, and well, I say green isn't random, but blues and reds, you know, have fun with it, I say. And maybe if you've just got a set of random inks on your desk and this stencil, just give it a go and just see what it comes out like. You know, if you're creating a background, it is just a pattern at the end of the day, isn't it? So, okay, so I'm just going over with Woodland Moss to all this vein detail here while I'm chatting away. There we are. And I think that's just a really nice, subtle background. I'm going to emboss it and say it's not the forefront of the design for the card, but it just adds a really nice detail for the background. And I think the reason why I thought it would match really well with the roses, they are reminiscent of rose leaves, I think, some of them. So I think that's why I thought it'd go really nicely with the other stencils that I'm using today. So I'm just going to cut off that little bit that I don't need. And then I'm going to emboss this because, again, it really highlights the detail. But you can see just before I emboss it itself, it doesn't need to be embossed. You can just use that onto a card blank. I've got sentiments here, actually. You can just put some sentiments on that and away you go. That is a really nice, simple and really pretty card. If you imagine if you did do this in different colorways with your different sentiments, I'll just turn that, you can see that's the holographic card. I think that is gorgeous. I mean, that is just me down to a T. I do love that. And again, on the coloured cardstock, which you don't always think of doing, it's usually the white cardstock you reach to for stenciling, but do try it on your coloured cardstocks as well. You'll be amazed. Right, I'm just going to emboss this for you then. Okay, let me show you. That's lined up really nice. Again, really tricky to show you the embossing. I'll just show you the reverse. And you can see what I was saying, actually. If you only have the embossing folder, just to emboss that, although this is the reverse, you'll still be able to create this card and still get that level of sort of detail, especially embossing onto different coloured cardstocks, just by using the embossing folder if you don't have the stencils. You can ink your embossing folder, or you could take your blending brush and highlight the embossed detail over the top as well. So there is ways of colouring that. You don't have to use the stencils. So let's put that away. Right, I'm going to put that to... I'm going to put that to one side. I think I'll do my stenciling first and then I'll start cutting into these to put the card together. So I'm going to put that to one side and I'm now going to stencil the rose butterfly. So again, I am going to stencil this onto cream cardstock, and this is textured cardstock. Yeah, it's a linen texture. I don't think you can necessarily see that actually. I've already put a line there because this is going to be what is layering onto these front panels. So I'm actually going to be cutting into the detail of this rose. I should be stenciling the whole thing, but that is the height of the panels that I will be cutting. So I just wanted to bear that in mind for when I line up my stencils. Now, if you were doing this at home, you could stencil this rose butterfly just twice in its full, as I have done here, and then cut into it and cut your panels down afterwards. Alternatively, you could cut your panels and you can use your tacky mat. So on your Ultimate here, and just stencil onto the smaller areas, and of course your tacky mat's going to keep these pieces of cardstock in place. I'm going to do it this way. So that's the height. So I really do want to just bear in mind where my design is going to be. I'm probably going to miss the butterfly off this one. Actually, not if I do it this way. Yeah, if I do it that way, I can stencil the butterfly. Okay, but the butterfly will probably be cut off, but that'll be fine. There we are. Actually use my brain a little bit there. Yeah, because that way you can see everything of the stencil being used. I'm not having to not stencil the butterfly for you. So I'll use all of that. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Yeah, I'm just making sure that that's going to work. Right, so we have 6 stencils with the rose butterfly. So let me just bring that one in here so you can see that. And I shall pop that one on there. Actually, you could, again, this is me going off on a completely different track, just putting that on the top there. If you did want to just do straightforward mats and layers, you can extend this foliage of the rose by matting this onto the spring foliage, and I think that works really well as well. Or you could mat and layer it like that. I think because these look like rose leaves, whichever way you use these 2 stencils together, I think they're just going to work. Okay, so let's get going. I'm actually quite chatty today. I know I keep going off on a tangent. Right, let's stick to what I'm doing. Right, so we have Woodland Moss, and we are coming in with the Woodland Moss onto these first set of leaves on stencil 1. So this is that first layer. Now these are going to be quite large leaves, and I want to probably make these the most colourful. And what I am going to do, again, the same as I was doing before, just add a layer of the eucalyptus leaves over the top of that, just to change their colour a little bit, because rose bushes, they have a really dark green glossy leaf, don't they? Not all of them, but majority of them do. And it's nice to have lots of different layers of greenery. We have a few layers of greenery in this, so I think that works really nice. And then we have our butterfly, so a good amount of pink candy going into there for the first part of its wing. So stencil number 2, a lot more greenery again. We have our butterfly, so I'm going to put sugar candy again, but a little bit less, just so it's slightly different shade to what I've done before. And we have a foliage. Now I'm going to start with a base of Margarita on here. Now, because we're going on to cream card anyway, the inks are going to take on a very slightly different tone. They work lovely on cream card, actually. They give a really nice blend, and the colours don't change too much, but obviously they haven't got the bright of the white as their base. So when I put the Margarita down, it does look slightly different. I'll just pull that away. Now I'm just going to now start building that up with a little bit of Woodland Moss as well, just to sort of give that intensity, but it has got the base of the Margarita, and it just gives you a different level of colour for your foliage on the front of the card there. I'm not necessarily covering up all the Margarita, and then what I will do again is come back in with a little bit more. Again, it's just play with your colours. You can't go too wrong with them, really, and it's all about creating something that, again, just looks good for your eye. Oh, excuse me, reaching across there. I think what I might do, just before I move on, is come in with a smaller brush and just go into the base of some of these leaves with the Woodland Moss, just to give a little bit of detail. So the tips of the outer tips of the leaves are going to be lighter, and the inner areas of the leaf are going to be darker there with the Woodland Moss. It's just something that I like to do. And that one there also. There we are. So we see those layers coming together. Now we have the flowers. Now say I'm going with yellow roses. Actually, my yellow roses have gone and sort of flowered in the garden now. I've got a set of pink ones that are coming out, which I'm looking forward to seeing. But I shall go with the yellow. I like the yellow and green together. So this is Pina Colada. Given a nice base to each of those flowers as we go around. The outer area of each of these rows is going to be darker. Again, that's just the way that I stencil. You can give a completely uniform colour all the way across, but as long as it's light enough and you're aware that you will be layering extra detail on top of that. But with roses, I think you can definitely get away with stenciling this base with one colour, a lighter colour like this, and then going over the top to create detail with a pink or a coral colour. That just looks really, really pretty. So we should do that. There's our roses. Now my sunlight is actually bleaching that out a little bit, but they do have a bit of a halo, a paler centre there. I should come in with the stencil number 4. So we've got the detail for the flowers. Before I do anything, I'm just going to come in with a little bit of the sugar candy and just go into the centre of these flowers. I haven't picked up any more ink. I don't want any more ink on there, but I'm just going to give the centre of the flowers just a bit of a tint of a pink there before I go on and add any extra colour. Now what I'll do, I'll just show you how that looks in itself. You can see really didn't need any more pink on that, but I do want the intensity of these roses to be much more yellow like they are here. So I'm going to come in with an interference ink, the Sweet Treat Shimmer. So I've got my blending sponge and I'm going to put down a lot of ink. So obviously with the interference inks, the more ink you put down, the more chance you'll see the mica as it dries. I'm just going to go all over these, and you can see already that that intensity of the yellow is really got much stronger. Now I am going over the whole of the rose, probably minus a little bit of the centre there where I put the sugar candy, but you can go over as well. Just put a lighter area or a lighter touch, but definitely around the outside. I'm putting a lot of that sweet treat down because I want also that mica just to come out as it dries. And before I move the stencil, I'm going to really highlight that butterfly. For you, I have a feeling I'm going to end up cutting that away. But we do have the butterfly on the inside of the card here. So I'm using another interference, Golden Shimmer, and just lots of ink down. There we are. So really make that really bold. Just move that over to the side. And if I take that away now, you can see those roses are so much brighter, but we still have that little pink, of a hint of a pink going on in the centre there. Stencil number 5 are the rose stems. So I will come in with the Woodland Moss, and I'm going to make this really dark because these stems, I think, putting them really dark, that's just going to add a real nice sort of contrast to the rest of everything that we've stenciled. I can do that really quickly with one of these smaller stencil brushes. And also we've got the butterfly in his body there, so I'm going to bring in Regal Grey interference ink. Now I love this colour. So we're going to give the butterfly's body a dark body, and I think you can make this look blue, but if you layer it on, then it turns into a nice grey colour. I think that is just, oh, can't pick up the stencil. There we are. That works really nicely, I think, for the body. So the last stencil that we have, so stencil 6, we have the last part of the butterfly's wing. So I'm just going to wipe over that with the rest of the grey that I've got, and just shade that like so. So we can see our butterfly is finished there. Again, you can go to town with the butterfly and just make that look really beautiful. But then again, we've got the detail of the leaves here. So I'm going to come in with the eucalyptus leaves, not too much, but it will be enough to add the detail to the leaves there. So I'm going to start with eucalyptus leaves. That'll be a nice contrast to go all over. And then I'm going to finish with a little bit of woodland moss just at the base of all of these leaf details. I'm not going across the whole of the leaf with them. So even in these small cutaway areas, you can still get an element of shading just by using the right tool, the right brush, and not stenciling over the whole area. So when I take that away, you can see those leaves have got lots of different greens going on in them, which is, say, the leaves are all different ages. They always look a little bit different, don't they? So it's nice to actually bring that into the stenciling as well. I really do like what I stencil to sort of mimic what I would see in the garden, but that's just me. Okay, so we're done with our stencils. I'm going to put those away, so I'm going to keep myself relatively tidy, I think. And I'm going to put the lids on so I don't get in a mess. Yeah, we don't need that anymore. So that's our stenciling done. And now I can get my embossing folder and we can emboss this rose before we start cutting it down. So initially I'm going to just cut this down to size before I emboss. Now we don't need all the rest of this here. Now I can see the mica that's coming through on the rose now. I don't know if you'll be able to pick it up. So it's very tricky, but it does make a big difference, even on texture cardstock actually. If you use your interference inks on texture cardstock, you still get the shimmer as the mica dries. And obviously the more that you add, the more ink that you add from your interference pads, the more mica that you're going to get in the shine. So I'm going to emboss this now. So we can line that up. Like so. Okay. I'm getting much better at remembering to emboss now. I know when I used to do the lives, I used to just get so engrossed in the stenciling that when I finished and I'd logged off, I'd look at what I've done. I thought, oh, I've forgotten to emboss. So, but it's always important, I think, just to show. Oh, you can actually see the embossing on this one. The light's turned just so you can see that there. And look how that leaf's really popped out there, sitting in front of the flower. It looks really realistic, and if you get the colouring right on that, that would look amazing. And I'll just show you the back there, just to show you that has been embossed. Okay, so there's our two images that we've stenciled and embossed. Again, they work really well together, don't they? Because I've used the same colours across the two. You can easily lay these two together onto a card. I think they work so well. So try and mix and match, and put your stencils together. There's possibly a lot of you have got lots of stencils, lots of the different collections now, and a lot of them will work together. Right, so let's think about putting our card together. So I'm going to use that as the back panel. Actually, that one now I can see the interference. Now that one has fully dried. Maybe you can just about see that as that. Move that to the light there. This one has been sat there for a good couple of hours now, so you can really see that secondary colour coming through from the sweet treat. yeah, that's really pretty. I'm really pleased with that. So let's start putting this card together. So this is the panel that sits at the back. So my glue's working. So this will sit on the footprint size of the card. So this is your mats and layers that would work for a 6x4 card. Now, if you have dies, nesting dies that would fit these, then obviously you can even think about creating shaped mats and layers as well. So we can mat and layer that against there, and that is going to sit in the back of our card. I think I might need to get my new glue out soon. So that is sitting there. And even that up. I really like it with all the greens. I do like the tonal effect. Some people are able to use complementary colours and different colours, and they do it so well, but I can never seem to get that to work. I really do like these tonal colours, and you've got that little pop of colour with the butterfly there, which when you can just about see, gives you a little peek. Right, so now I've already cut my layers with the foliage, so I don't need to cut that one down, but I will cut the rose layer down for you in a second, just to show you how that works. So these have already been cut to size and to shape, and these foliage layers were stenciled in exactly the same way as I've done there, and embossed as well. So I'm going to layer those. I think it's really nice as well that I'm layering onto a lighter colour, because sometimes you can layer onto a darker colour and it really frames. But I've actually laid this onto a much lighter colour. But when this sits against the green card, that lighter layer gives you the frame that a darker cardstock would normally give you. So I'm going to layer that on there. And you can see how that's sort of peeking from the side there, or from the front. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Oh, come on, glue. Don't run out on me now. Oh dear, I think this glue might be almost gone. Okay, let me get my pin from this one. Let's see if I can just do that. Okay, there we are. Has that worked? Oh, just about. Oh, I know they say you should never work with children and animals on camera, but I always say glue bottles are the most unpredictable things going. Okay, there we are. So we have that layered on the back there, so that works really well. Now, if you imagine, if I tuck those in on the inside, you could just make that as a card with a single fold on the front, and I think that would work equally as well. What do you think? Or what do you think if you fold that on the inside, you've got a little pocket there. Now I'm going off track again completely, aren't I? You've got a little pocket there. If you were just to put a little bit of adhesive down the side, close that in, you've got a little pocket that you could perhaps fit a little note in, or a little bookmark, you see, like that. That'd be really nice, wouldn't it? That's, again, another different style, and I think that way you get the beauty of the spring foliage. Again, you could put your sentiment on the front there. That's a different style of card altogether. Again, I'm going down a completely different track, but again, you can still see how this foliage works with the rose. I think it looks like it was made to be a set together, but it wasn't, obviously. But again, with all of Lisa's things, there is an element that runs through everything that makes it all seamless. So what I will do though is cut down this rose panel before I get distracted anymore, and we'll fit this to the front of the card. So we have our maps and layers, which are obviously going onto the front there, and we need to cut these down to size. Now I showed you, let me just pop up the I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that, Tina. The amount of times I've kicked myself, and especially when I'm sort of finished a live and I think, oh no, I haven't really shown the full set in its beauty at all. But yeah, I do get carried away, and then I get different ideas as I go along. Okay, so I've just brought up the construction for you again. So the decorated layers, for this front layer, then it's obviously the smallest of those measurements that I've given you. So you'll need 2 pieces at 4 6/8 tall by 1 6/8 wide. So I've already made that mark for the height of these panels. So I'm going to cut that down now. You could always, this little panel here, you can always leave and sort of put back into your little bits box or back into the stencil envelope. You'll be able to use that. I think in itself that is a nice usable panel. Perhaps put a sentiment on the front of that, and that would work really nice. Actually, I could have used it on the front of there, couldn't I? Anyway, right, so we now want to make 2 pieces 1 6/8 of an inch wide. So I'm going to start from this side, and I'm just going to trim that down. So trim away that excess there. And my first panel, I'm going to make 1 6/8. So it's 1 3/4 inches basically. So I'm going to cut this one down. Now it does seem a bit of a shame, I suppose, to sort of cut into what you've already stenciled, but you have the panel in the back, which I think is really nice. And then if you keep this continuity going, and then you cut the second panel, you know, consequentially with the design, as you can see that I'm doing here, all that I'm not using is this part really. So you're not actually wasting too much. And it means that the 2 panels at the front are not even, but they're still connected because they're part of the same design, if that makes sense. And I think that's a really nice design trait as well. Now, obviously, what we need to do is to layer these onto our shaped maps and layers. The easiest way, to be honest, I find to do this is to mat and layer it onto the top, and then take a ruler and your pencil and follow the line that you can see with your shaped. Let me get a darker piece of card so you can see what I'm doing. I'll do it on the back of here. Okay. So I'm going to just put my mats and layers together like so. You've already at the right height. You can see the diagonal of the mat and layer underneath. So you can just align your ruler with that layer, come down to the corner of the top part and just create that line there. And then you can take that to your trimmer and cut that off. That's the way, the easiest way that I've found to do that. What I will say is that when you get to this stage, you will naturally fall into your most preferred way of working and the way that makes sense to you and your brain when you're creating something like this. I could have given you the measurements of this, but then the measurements are really sort of an odd measurement to give you. So I think it's easier to do it that way and sort of work to the mats and layers that you have. So then you can either use your trimmer or your scissors to create that diagonal line. We take that off, and that one. And we have our layers that we can add together. The glue's decided to work. I think what I'll do, I'll put the glue on here now while this is flowing. I'm definitely coming to the end of this one. Okay, so we can add our mats and layers. Our diagonals work at the top. Now our mat and layer here is a lot paler than before, but I think it'll work really nice. You've still got that nice finished element by having that double layer of card there. So although it's the contrast of this mat and layer isn't quite as strong as it was, it'll be a lot more noticeable once you put this onto the layer of the green, and it will match up with the layers with these zigzags that you have there already. So what I'm going to do now, I can add this to the front of the card. Actually, looking at this and the colours, doesn't it remind you of lemons and limes as well? They just go so well together, don't they? Now, obviously, this will look totally different if you use reds and pinks and whatever, but equally as pretty, I think. Now, because we've got all the measurements right, all our sort of diagonal lines all work together as well with our mats and layers. So that's quite a pleasing sight. And you can see how the rose still stays intact, even though we have that separation in the centre. So it doesn't actually look, if I bring in this image, it is considerably smaller to what we've stenciled, but you can still see that it's this set. And then our finishing touch, we can just add our sentiment to the front like so. Now you could do that, or you could add it to the inside. Again, you've got choices. Entirely up to you how you want to do that. It's quite nice at the front without anything in. Now, another thing that I've just thought, just look at the time. One final thing, because this butterfly is intact and it's embossed, although we don't have a die cut or a die to cut these out, by the time these images are embossed, it gives us a really nice line to follow for us to fussy cut. And it would be a shame if we didn't use this, because now as this butterfly's dried and I'm cutting this and moving it, I can see all the shimmer from that mica really coming out. So I'm not using this for a sentiment, but what I will do, I'm going to fussy cut this out, and this will be a lovely little embellishment to the front of the card. Just come around. Now you notice actually while I'm doing this, I'm actually moving the image and not my scissors. Now there's a lot more experienced fussy cutters out there. I'm not. I haven't got the patience for it, to be honest. But sometimes it is just worth doing. This butterfly is just too pretty to be not used or lost on my desk somewhere. So while I'm here and while I think about it, I'm going to cut this out and I'm going to use this. So far, although we've got a very dynamic card, a very 3D card, there's no embellishment actually on this card at all. And let me just round off those bits there. Missed the top of his wing, but you'd never know. Okay, let's move those away. There we are. So we have our little butterfly, and what we can do is find a little foam pad, I think. It fits, perfect fit. There we are. A little foam pad, and we can, I reckon we can put that onto the front there. Let's just, I don't know. Again, that's me being indecisive. Actually, I think I might put that down there. How sweet is that? So you've pretty much used everything. All that we haven't used from our rose stencil, even though we've cut into it, is just those little sections there, which I don't think is too bad at all. And we have our sentiments that we can put onto the front like that, I think. Am I going to put them on there? Yes, I am. Because otherwise I'll lose them. I keep going off on a tangent today, don't I? So I'm going to put the best. So remember, these are the XL sentiments, the new ones that are coming in. And with the lives that I done for you last week, I think I've done 2 lives, didn't I? One where I was really focused on these. I've made so many different styles of cards with just these sentiments that hopefully it's sort of really shown you how well they can be used and fitted into your stash. So we can do that, and they can fit into, hiding our butterfly, but that's fine. There we are. Let's put the chat back on. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that today. I'm really pleased with how that's come together. That's really nice. So it's quite a straightforward card, but there's a lot of detail going on there, using 2 very different sets that I think really complement each other really well. So we've used the rose butterfly and the spring foliage together. So I'll get this photographed and I'll put this a nice photo of that into the group for you to see, and obviously the video is going to be available to watch on YouTube at your leisure, to sort of rewatch however many times you want to. But thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. Actually really enjoyed that. I won't be with you on Thursday, so it's just one live for me this week. We've rescheduled Cheryl's live to be next Monday, so hopefully that works out really well for her. She tried really hard to get to you for the live, but the way things worked out on the day, she just couldn't. But I said not to worry, we'll just reschedule it for next week and she'll be back and she can enjoy making. It's a really pretty card actually that she'll be with you. I think Lisa says she's not with you, is she, this Friday? She's off busy and having a well-deserved rest. So I'll see you again next week. I love to Hazel. Yeah, thank you, Tina. She's been really soppy today. I should take her out in the garden now, I think. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Enjoy the summer if you have it with you, and I shall see you again next week. Take care.